scary movie.
What's up, everybody? Garrett back here, and this is my spoiler-free and spoiler review for Scream 2022, also known as Scream 5. Alright, so real quick, I'm going to go through my spoiler-free review and let you know exactly what I thought of Scream 2022, or Scream 5, or 5 Cream, or however you want to say it, but the newest Scream movie, which actually took me a couple days to actually get to the theater. I was not sure I was going to even make it. I've got a lot of stuff going on here at the house. I'm bouncing between places right now. Work's been crazy. I wasn't sure exactly if I was going to make it to this movie, but I finally did last night, and I'm very glad I did. I'm not a huge Scream fan. I like the first one a lot. The sequels to me are okay. I never really dug them too much. So I was really kind of looking forward to this installment of Scream. But I will tell you, I watched zero teaser trailers, zero trailers. Anybody that posted a review, I did not watch it. If I saw a Scream picture or Ghostface on social media, I scrolled right by the last couple days, especially because I knew I was a little late to the party to check this one out. So I was going in completely blind. I knew nothing except that some of the cast was coming back, and that is all I knew. So all I can say, and in my opinion, I think this was the best sequel so far. It was different. It was Scream, but at the same time, it was kind of brutal. Like, to me, like, the Scream sequels got a little bit more hokey as they went on. I'm not sure if it was like the scary movie phase that came out, but I always kind of found Ghostface felt like he was getting a little bit goofy or clumsy. And it almost became a little bit of a parody of itself, and I think those scary movies really did that for me, because I was a big fan of those as well. So a lot of the sequels start to kind of blend together with all those sequels from Scream and scary movies. So I was never really a huge fan of the sequels, but this time I felt like Ghostface was really savage. Like, he was kind of brutal, and it brought scary back to Ghostface. He really seemed a little more scary again, like he was a slasher, someone to be afraid of, and I really liked that aspect of it. What I really feel this did well was it really brought back the horror into the Scream franchise, I feel like, and to me, this is probably the most brutal of them all. The kills were very, very gory. They were very inventive. There was some times that I found myself being like, ooh, you know, and I don't usually get like that. Now, when it came to the movie itself, you had a new cast of characters. Then you had a couple characters from the past make their way on here. I will not tell you exactly who, just the ones that were in the posters. So you have like your Neve Campbell, your Sidney Prescott, you had your Courtney Cox and Gayle Weathers, and you had Dwight, aka Dewey, from David Arquette. So I think they did a really good job kind of adding these legacy characters in, but not letting them overtake the movie like some of these other horror franchises do when they bring back legacy characters. So with that being said, the new cast of characters, I think there was a few in there that I really liked. I don't think they all were memorable characters. I think that might have been a little bit of a problem, is I never really felt like I attached to a lot of them. There was a couple that I felt like really did a good job, but some were very forgettable in my opinion. But I just think overall the movie was really tense. I liked the whole whodunit that Scream does. They really pushed that a lot here, where they were kind of all looking at each other. You know, it could be you based on the lore and based on all the rules. Like, it could be any one of us. People pointing fingers here, people pointing fingers there. I kind of like that aspect of it, really pushing that, because, you know, I'm big into a lot of those old school mysteries like 10 Little Indians or Then There Was None. I know that's very similar. You have those movies like Knives Out, which was really cool. So it really got you to kind of think, who was it? There was a couple times I looked over at my wife and I was kind of like, oh, maybe it's this person, or maybe it's this person. Oh, that would be a swerve if it was this. And to be honest, like, I kind of knew one of them at one point, but I did change my mind a lot as we went. I think I knew what was going on, and they kind of swerved me. So I kind of like that aspect of a guessing game, and it really makes you think, you know, who it could be. So again, I really do think you should check this out. I mean, was it a perfect movie? Absolutely not. There was some things I'm going to talk about in my spoiler full review of what I didn't like about it. So in my opinion, to sum this all up, is Scream 2022 or Scream 5, which I think it should be called, worth checking out? I think absolutely. If you're a fan of the franchise in general, I think you're really going to like this installment. If you're not necessarily a huge Scream fan, I think you're going to kind of still like this as well. Like I said, I like the original one. The sequels to me can come or go. And I found this one was the most enjoyable sequel that I've seen in this franchise. Now, if you want to stay and hang around with me, I'm going to go into a spoiler-filled review, and I'm actually going to have a giveaway at the end of this video to stick around for as well. Now, I would love to hear in your comments below, not only what you thought of this movie, do you agree with some of the things I'm going to say? Do you disagree? Where do you rank this? I'm going to go through my rankings first, and then I'm going to get into more spoilers. So if you have not seen this new one yet, I recommend shutting this down now and coming back to it after you've checked out this movie. All right, so now onto the spoiler full review on Scream 2022, or what I like to call it Scream 5, because it really is the fifth in this series. It doesn't try to hide the other four movies like a bunch of other franchises do, which I do respect, is that they take characters from all the different movies and kind of put them in here. It's not like they didn't exist. They did exist. And that is a big thumbs up for me because, again, I like continuity and I like things that make sense. And it shows that the writers here really respected the previous movies. So with that being said, this is the first movie that Wes Craven was not involved with, rest in peace, but it was taken under the wing of Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt. They also worked together on Ready or Not, which was a pretty cool movie that came out a couple of years ago. So if you haven't checked that one out, I definitely would. So, all right, I'm going to slow things down a little bit here. I'm going to start to talk about this, vent a little bit. This was my favorite of the four sequels. To me, it goes 1 is my favorite. This is my next favorite. I would say 2, 4, 3 for me. Again, I'm not the biggest Scream fan, but I really did enjoy this movie. All right, so this opens up the same way most of these Scream movies open up, with someone home alone. It's actually a female teenager. She's home alone. The phone rings, which is kind of weird because there's actually a home phone too, which is kind of cool. And that phone rings and she's texting on her cell phone. And she answers the phone and she hears that familiar voice of Ghostface. Now, he starts quizzing her and stuff like that on the movies, the same stuff Ghostface always does. But this time it's different because we're so far in the future that a lot of these things he's asking questions about, this girl does not really know the answers because she's talking to him about things that she likes, like Babadook and stuff like that. So it is quite interesting. He starts quizzing her on the Stab movies. That's a weird rip on the Scream franchise. Long story short, she ends up surviving in a brutal attack by Ghostface, and I thought it was really, really cool. It was tense. They did that very well in this movie. They made it very tense at times. There was some times where you would think that Ghostface would be there, and the music's playing, and all of a sudden, he's not there. The music's playing, they turn the corner, he's not there. And then all of a sudden, one time they do something, and he's there. And it really kind of causes you to jump. And again, like I said in my spoiler-free review, this Ghostface is a lot more aggressive, a lot more savage, a lot more brutal. And I actually think that that character needed that a little bit. I said before that, you know, to me, Ghostface kind of got watered down as the series went. And I feel like they tried to bring him back a little bit as to be a little bit more savage in part 4. So they did a pretty good job there. But again, I think this is the Ghostface that I really enjoyed the most, regardless of who was supposed to be the killer. So we cut to the main character, the sister of the girl who was attacked at the beginning of the movie. Her name is Sam Carpenter. And you know how this works. They always take last names of other horror movie actors or characters or anything like that. And it's definitely a play on John Carpenter, but her name was Sam Carpenter. They said Samantha. She said, no, it's Sam. And she comes back to town with her boyfriend to help her sister, who's now in the hospital. So Sam was played by Melissa Barrera. To be honest, this was the first thing I've ever seen her in, and I thought she did a pretty good job. There was some parts at the beginning I wasn't really sure on, but she grew on me. And come to find out, she also has this secret that we kind of find out in the movie, that she is actually the daughter of Billy Loomis. So come to find out, that is the reason that these killings are going on. Something is connected. Someone knows this secret. So we start seeing more killings in this town of Woodsboro and then trying to figure out who it is. So what they do is they end up contacting Dewey to help them solve the case. I think David Arquette killed it in this movie. He was a lot cooler of a Dewey. Like I said with Ghostface, like Dewey was also kind of one of those characters that were like, he was kind of goofy. It was hard to sometimes take him serious, but this, he was really gritty. He was older now. He was in better shape, but he looked really grizzled. And I like this Dewey. He actually was a lot more serious. He was a little bit more rugged and angry. And explained that he actually was divorced from Gayle Weathers at this point. So he's kind of living in like a trailer. And they go and speak with him about helping out. He wants nothing to do with anything. And then he decides that he does want to help solve this case. But man, David Arquette does such a great job here. We're going to get into this in a second, But yeah, I thought he was just so cool in this one. He was the best I think I've seen him at in this role. Now, Dewey ends up calling the other legacy characters to come on back. So Gayle Weathers and Neve Campbell, and they end up coming back to Woodsboro to help solve this case. Now, things that go on here that I enjoyed was they really kept you guessing. I explained this in my earlier review on the spoiler-free review, is that they really kept you guessing along the way. There was a lot of finger pointing here. But what we did know was someone knew Sam's secret, that she was the daughter of Billy Loomis. Now, what I found really cool, which I was surprised, is that Skeet Ulrich actually makes an appearance in this movie a bunch of times, but it's more of like he's like an apparition, or his daughter sees him and she has to take these pills because he's always with her and he's talking to her, and you see him in the mirror and stuff like that. So as weird as that is, I actually really liked it, and Skeet Ulrich looks great. I'm a huge fan of him. I met him probably a few months ago. He still looks good, but you can tell they did a little de-aging with him. They gave him the old haircut, and he really does look like he did back then. So I'm a big fan of that. I thought that was a real cool element, was to bring Skeet back into the mix, because I kind of feel like Skeet is overlooked in this whole franchise. He was the original killer, I would say. I mean, obviously we know that Stu, aka Matthew Lillard, helped him in the first one, but I always felt like Billy was like the main driver behind all this, and I feel like he doesn't get enough love. And when you look at like his filmography, you would have thought his look and being in Scream back in the day, he would have done a lot more stuff back then, which he didn't. So I'm really happy that they let him reprise this role in a sense. And what's actually really interesting that they do is they almost kind of turn it a little bit, where he almost becomes like a hero, or he helps his daughter in the end, which I'll kind of get back to in a little bit. But yeah, I thought that was really cool having Billy Loomis, aka Skeet Ulrich, in this movie in some sense, especially because he is technically dead. So I really, really like that. So as I was watching this and I found out that Sam Carpenter is Billy Loomis's daughter, I'm thinking to myself, so her name is Sam Loomis now? And I thought that was a little bit funny. I'm not sure if anybody else really thought that or caught that, that it is Sam Loomis in a Scream movie now, if you want to really go down that road of who her father is. But I kind of thought that was funny. I didn't know if we were going to get a, did Ghostface kill again? So again, the things I liked was I liked the appearance of Skeet Ulrich. I thought that was really cool. I thought the main two girls, the sisters, I thought they were really, really good as well. I also thought the main girl's boyfriend, Richie, did a pretty good job as well. He reminded me so much of like Joshua Jackson, like a young version. I thought he was a really good character, but honestly, the rest of the kids, to me, like they didn't really do it for me. I know they were trying to make like that quintessential character, kind of like Jamie Kennedy, where they know a lot of things about horror. They're talking about meta. They're talking about sequels and prequels and requels and legacy characters. And, you know, they're really trying to get that meta aspect that Scream is known for, really driving it home with this movie as well. Now, I didn't mind that. I felt like they were really trying to get you to understand what they were doing there. I knew exactly what was going on, so I didn't really need to be summarized over and over again. But again, that's kind of what Scream does. So, you know, it was kind of cool to see that, just because, again, they're still playing that same role and they're setting up what this movie is to become. Now, as you start to see, we have characters who are related to characters from the original series that are all kind of intertwined here. So you start to break that down, and it's basically like, hey, this is happening again, but it's with everybody's kids or nephews or nieces or whatever it is. And again, it reminds me a lot, and I've heard this from other people say, like Force Awakens, like one of those things where you've got the legacy cast, but then you've got other people who are kind of related to them, building them up as the new cast. So you kind of see a lot of that going on here. Which again, I thought they actually did it pretty well, besides the fact that I just didn't connect with a lot of the other characters in this teenage kid group. Now, a couple things I want to touch on. Neve Campbell in this, she did great. She still looks great. Her part was a little bit smaller, which I didn't hate. I like Neve Campbell. I think she's great. But I see what they were trying to do here, and they kind of spit it at you, like you almost felt like they were bashing the Halloween trilogy a little bit, because they're like, oh, the new, you know, the legacy characters don't have to be in the whole movie. And you could kind of see they were making a little bit of digs here and there on that movie or other similar movies that are doing these requels, I guess. So she wasn't in a lot, but what she did was really effective, and there was reason that she didn't show up, which I kind of liked, is that she explained, I'm never going back to Woodsboro, but what ended up bringing her back was the fact that one of the main legacy characters died. Now, that was one of the things that I knew was going to probably happen, but for me, I feel like the wrong person died here. Dewey died in a heroic way. It was super sad. I think at the end of the day, I think they had the wrong person die, in my opinion, just because to me, he stole the show here, and I would love to see him in other Scream movies going forward. He almost kind of, to me, reminded me of like a Reggie Bannister type character from the Phantasm series. How all of a sudden now he just became like such a badass after all these years. And it would have been nice to kind of see him lead the way in future installments of this franchise. Now, who do I think should have died instead of Dewey? I think in a way they picked the right person because I think it hit home the most, is I think people really like that character, and I think that really hurt us as fans the most. But in my opinion, to think about bringing the series even further, I kind of think the person who should have got it was Gayle Weathers. Now, again, she's not the most loved character in this franchise, but at the same time, we learn that Dewey absolutely still loves her, and I think it would have just been a bigger hit on the characters like Dewey if that would have been the case. But at the same time, I understand maybe it wouldn't have hit Neve Campbell as hard as Dewey did for her to come on back to Woodsboro to try to find Ghostface and kill him once and for all. Now let's talk about Gayle Weathers for a second. Courtney Cox. Man, you know, it's not on me to tell anybody what they should do with themselves, but honestly, like, I feel like some of these actresses now, and even actors, I would say, they're getting a lot of work done, and it really showed here on Courtney Cox. But I want to be honest here, like, it was hard for me to watch her. I mean, in the last Scream, I felt like maybe she had a little work done, but she still looked good. This one, like, it didn't even look like the same person to me. Like, honestly, like, it didn't. And it was hard for me to really root for her because I didn't feel like I was even looking at the same Courtney Cox I remember from the past. Now, again, I don't want to go too much down that rabbit hole. I mean, I hate kind of talking about people like that, but at the same time, it was tough. And I'm glad that she was here, but at the same time, I just feel like it just didn't give me the same excitement as I thought it would have. And that's why I kind of feel like, are we going to bring her and Neve into the next movie? Is there going to be a movie? I mean, I'm assuming this one's doing really well. I'm assuming they're going to take a lot of these new characters and make a new one. I'm not sure where they go here, to be quite honest with you. It ends in a way where I think this could be the end. Or maybe we start bringing some more characters from the past in and expanding this story. So yeah, that's one of the things that I liked, in the sense that they were really ballsy and killed Dewey off, knowing that it was going to really hurt the fans. But in my opinion, for the Scream franchise itself, I kind of wish he was still around and could kind of help move this franchise along. Now, getting to the killers, you know, again, like I said, I was back and forth. I was like, oh, maybe this person did it. Maybe this person did it. Maybe this person did it. And it ended up going back to who I kind of thought it was from the beginning, because when you see Amber for the first time, she does kind of seem weird. She's giving weird looks to Sam. She's acting a certain way, and you kind of feel like, oh, there's something going on here. But I think, in my head, I was like, oh, they're trying to make it too obvious. So I kind of brushed her off to the side. But she ended up being one of the killers. It was like the best friend of the sister who got attacked at the beginning of the movie. And it also was the boyfriend, Richie, who I said I thought was a pretty cool character. He kind of played aloof to even knowing anything about the stabbings and stuff. And come to find out, he was just some hardcore stab fan. So he was kind of the mastermind of all this to get these legacy characters back, because he was such a hardcore fanatic and felt that they didn't do the franchise right. So he wanted to kind of make it right. Now, again, it's such of a weird motive as it was, and I could see a lot of people being like, that was stupid. I kind of thought that at first as well, but then I kind of thought about it and I said, especially in this day and age, there's so many people that are just so obsessed with certain things that any little move that's made that they don't like, it really ruins their day. It really, ruins them. And I see this all the time. Again, it was a slippery slope that they kind of used when they described this. I'm not sure exactly if that's what they were going for, was like a crazy fan, like how far will they go to get what they want? I mean, again, you can interpret it different ways, but again, I thought it was pretty cool because it's something you got to kind of think about and think to yourself, wow, does that make sense? Or was that just outright a cop-out, an easy way out? But I think there's a lot more to it than what's on the surface. So to me, again, I think the reveals were a little bit meh, because I think in my head, I was hoping for something a little bit more exciting or surprising. I really did feel that we were going to get a Matthew Lillard cameo. Maybe he was the mastermind behind this, because the end of the movie does end up back at his house where the first movie ended in a very similar scene, which I kind of found pretty cool that they almost rehashed it, because again, this is what this whole new requel is about, is kind of rebooting this franchise up. So I kind of thought this was a real cool way to do it, and I enjoyed it. So I thought maybe we were going to see Matthew Lillard as they rip the mask off, or maybe he comes out at the end and he helped these kids, and maybe he wasn't dead from the first one. I don't know, but I thought maybe we were going to get a little cameo from him, and he was nowhere to be found. So I kind of found that a little bit of a bummer as well, that Matthew Lillard was nowhere to be found in this movie. Will he show up in some aspect later down the road? I don't know, but it would have been pretty cool to have him. And I always go back to wrestling where like Vince McMahon said, "It was me all along," you know, and I thought that would have been kind of cool to have that as like a big surprise ending, where the reveal for the boyfriend was kind of cool, but the other reveal for the best friend was kind of meh, because she wasn't really a big part of the movie. She was here and there. So to me, it was a little meh on that. So again, I'm 50-50 on the outcome on the reveal, personally. And when you go back and think about it, another thing that was really meh was that the girl, based on where the boyfriend was and stuff, was the one who ended up killing Dewey. And, you know, they're fighting for a while and this, that, and this. And there's no way that this little tiny teenage girl would have put up such a fight against Dewey in that hospital. So to me, looking back and realizing like, okay, that must have been her because the boyfriend was over here, and it must have been the boyfriend because she was over here. Like, you know, a lot of it kind of doesn't add up. And that's why I even go back and feel like, well, if Gayle died, it would have made a little bit more sense because they were probably closer in size. So it would have made more sense, where again, when you go back and look at it, like Dewey and Ghostface were like the same size. And for it to be a tiny little 16, 17-year-old girl at the end of the day, kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense. So again, I don't want to go off and talk about this too much. Maybe I'll do a live stream. I feel a lot more comfortable interacting with you guys and find out exactly what you thought about it. But again, so that was my spoiler heavy portion of this review. I hope you guys liked it. Now, what I want to do now is a quick giveaway. Now, if you guys noticed, a lot of these retro Scream posters have been floating around social media the last couple weeks. I believe Creepy Duck Design did them. But at my theater, I think it was a bunch of showcase cinemas, had these little, I think they're like 11 by 14 or 12 by 14 mini posters of one of those artworks that they designed. It's a real old school retro look. So I ended up getting 2 of these posters, and I want to give one away to somebody right now. So if you didn't happen to come across one of these, maybe your theaters didn't hand these out to people that saw the movie. I know they're a limited time only, so I was really lucky enough to get 2, especially that I saw the movie a couple days later than a lot of people. So if you're interested in this retro poster, I'll send it to one person, and here's what you're going to do to enter. You're going to follow me on Twitter at B0RN, the number 2, BERAD, Born to be Rad, on Twitter. Again, I'm not really heavily active on Twitter. I want to start becoming a little bit more active on Twitter. So go follow me there, then post under this video in the comments that you followed me on Twitter and what you thought of Scream. Did you think Scream 2022 was rad or bad? And then a week from now, I'm going to announce a winner on my Twitter and on YouTube who's going to get this new retro Scream mini poster. So thank you guys once again for checking this out. This is Garrett at Born to be Rad, and like always, stay